The Side Hustler's Perspective podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, we break down the art of healthy hustling, getting out of your own way, and growing your creative business. Welcome to round 9 of the Student Spotlight Special. This is a podcast series that highlights my 12-week coaching program students, and this round features the Dream Team, aka my fall 2023 class, consisting of Mary Moegenburg, Marc Steir, and Joonie Kay. These 3 hungry souls have been putting in an insane amount of work behind the scenes as they elevate their minds and creative grind. I'm excited to spotlight their transformations and takeaways as we near the end of the program. And please make sure to check out the show notes of this episode so you can easily connect with each student and support them. I got a link to all their socials over there. All right, Marc, with the intro out of the way, are you ready to go, sir?
Ready to rock? Yep.
All right. My man, let's get started. Let's tell us a little bit about yourself, all right?
Sounds good. Yeah, my name is Marc Steir. I'm a brand designer and illustrator, and I create bold, crisp, clean logos and branding that really help build upon the stories of my clients and the stories that they want to share. And during this season, I've really been focused on dialing into my illustration and writing skills to help communicate my own story and my craft better. My work really revolves around my interests of wellness, the outdoors, and sports. And for my business, I best align with entrepreneurs, startups, and nonprofits who are hungry to make an impact and are as equally obsessed about their craft as I am. And my goal is to execute unique concepts that help clients connect with their customers, while also finding my voice and style and pursuing my own art on the side. And it's in the finer details and the stories of both my clients and myself, really, that I like to dig into to help really uncover the value that's worth sharing with the world. And I think a nice tie back to, what we've learned in this program was the segment around the secret sauce and tapping into that and kind of falling back on my past, my story, my memories, and really kind of dialing into the things that, I once really loved, but kind of got away from. And we'll speak to some of that stuff here soon.
Normally I'd like to go into, let's talk about like the projects and the season you're in, but your elevator pitch was just so dialed in, the messaging and positioning, but it wasn't always like that. Let's like rewind it a little bit and let's talk about who Marc was. Cause first you joined me in a boot camp, the Q3 boot camp, and we had jumped on a call before that. And let's just rewind to past Marc. Let's talk about struggling Marc. Not saying you got it all figured out now, but tell me about like past Marc before we started working together. Who was that dude? What were your biggest struggles?
Yeah, I definitely didn't really have a roadmap or a path forward. I'd look at a blank canvas and not know where to start. I had issues with, and still do have issues with public speaking and talking in front of groups of people. It's always been a struggle of mine, but, since going through this program and really kind of focusing on me, my passions, and just simple steps of kind of implementing task lists and things like that, have really kind of dissipated some of those fears or those struggles. They're not gone entirely, and I have a lot of work yet to do, but it's certainly helped a lot. So,
and look at you now, like not only are you presenting at work, moving your way up, which we could talk about some wins later, but you're leading off a podcast, speaking in front of a bunch of people. And when I first met you, it's like branding. Yeah. Branding. And then we start getting to know each other a little bit more. You're a heavy systems based dude, which is me too, athlete, all that good stuff. So we gelled and vibed pretty quickly. I feel like I parallel a lot to your story and vice versa. And today, talk about the season that you're in right now. Like you came in heavy branding, but there's like another world you wanted to explore. And you kind of mentioned it with your secret sauce a little bit. Can you kind of talk about the heavier work that we're doing this season and how difficult and uncomfortable it is to dive into this different version of yourself, of what you're actually really interested in, a skill set you want to build?
Yeah, for sure. So to start kind of taking a step back, early on in this program, I helped clear my plate. I finished off some client projects. And during that time, to your point, I kind of built in the systems and the checklists and the hit lists of tasks and things like that to kind of get the reps in motion and kind of get that system down. And then that stuff sort of became muscle memory. And now I'm taking a deep dive into my passion around illustration. It's something that I've always loved doing as a kid. And, tapping into the secret sauce, I found that, I really needed to tap back into that. And so now what I'm doing is I'm really narrowing my focus on illustration, but I'm kind of doing a mini series around hockey team branding. So kind of meshing my interests with branding and illustration, with a focus on illustration. That's the primary goal, and really kind of creating something for me that I love, not for a client, not for anyone else. Just having a good time with it, and it's been awesome so far. So,
Why did you give up art in the first place? Like when we dove deep into your secret sauce, it's one of my favorite exercises, the secret sauce, where we really just start, to me, it's just building like the foundation of who you are in your personal brand, your stories, your backstory, your experiences, adversities, skills, strengths, passion, interests, beliefs, values, and plucking all these ingredients to be like, this is what I'm going to go to market with and experiment. And you wrote an incredible backstory. I'm like, holy shit, this dude is a writer. I'm like, he has something to say more than just I create logos for people. So I've been just pushing it and pushing it so I can start chipping away and revealing like, damn, there's another version of this dude out here that I want to expose himself and other people to. But going into your story, it was always about drawing logos or drawing people's names and everything else. What do you think was like the disconnect? Where did you give up art along the way? And why do you think that is? Because I feel like it's probably similar to me.
yeah, I think, I mean, you go through school and different classes and stuff, and then it's all gearing you towards the workforce and digitizing the art, which isn't, not to say that that's bad or anything like that, but you start going down this path. A lot of other distractions. You start following other big name artists and whatever else, and you get the comparison syndrome, and you start stressing about, oh my God, I'm not as good as them, so maybe I'm done pursuing this outlet, and I'll move on to something else. And I think a lot of that was back again to the self confidence thing. As I started seeing some new design idols that I look up to and graphic design courses and things like that, I get discouraged. And so I kind of dropped that and moved forward with what I was learning at the time. So.
And what sparked that interest again? What was like, damn, I need to push some illustration this season because you've given a lot of pushback too. Like it's easy to play in the safe world of what you're good at and what you're comfortable with. That's why a lot of us stay at day jobs that we hate. It's because we're just comfortable here and we're not really sure and we can't measure the risk of what's on the other side. So like it's been fun challenging each week. Like, yo, I know you want to play over here, but you want to stay in your system. You want to focus on the back end stuff. But I'm like, there's just another world to explore. So what was really like the push to push back into illustration and tap back into that inner child artist again?
Yeah, it's a kind of a two-part thing. So I think the biggest thing is like in the day job, grateful for the work that I've got there. But you start getting into the weeds with sort of the production work and, really order taking and executing for the clients. And I think that definitely gets old over time. And so with illustration, it's really enabled me to kind of tap into personal freedom again and just designing whatever it is I want to do. And I think something that kind of gave me a little nudge forward and helped me kind of prove that to myself that I could get back into something like that. And thus jumping into this program was my training for the marathon this past spring. Really kind of, I wasn't a runner 2 years ago. And, I eventually worked my way to running a marathon. And it's really just little steps at a time. Even during marathon training, I still didn't think at times that I could pull it off. And eventually I got there. And so I thought maybe I can start applying that same mindset to my creative work and my creative passions. And, I jumped into this program and started learning and meshing with you guys. And now I'm making some good progress that I'm excited about. So.
Well, and what I love the most is in order to become professionals, we have to be rookies again and we have to embrace the suck. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to try some new shit because this new shit I suck at, and I don't want to suck. I don't want to feel like I'm failing when I feel like the biggest hack is just embracing that season of just being really horrible at something so you could be really good at something. And so the journey of you, it's been really cool seeing like, okay, I'm going to explore this. well, let's start here. We started probably a little bit too big. And once I realized it was a little overwhelming, we scale it back. We scale it back to like, here's a flash sheet. Just draw so we can get you reps on the iPad to speed up your process more versus all analog. And let's just make a flash sheet, right? Like, and then from the flash sheet, let's make a more dialed in flash sheet around, a more dialed in concept of, okay, hockey. I love hockey. That's part of your secret sauce. You play Tuesday night beer hockeys after these calls, is it? Yeah, straight psycho. We have late night Tuesday calls. And this dude's like, fuck it, I can't get enough. I'm going to put in more work and I'm going to go play hockey with the boys, and get drunk and then wake up probably early and work out as well because you're a psycho like that. But now we've dialed in even more. Action reveals answers. So you weren't sure where to start with your art. Slow down, scale it up, and now you're building out this gargoyle concept with like a Georgia-based team. And real quick, what are you scaling this up to now? It just started as a flash sheet, and what's this concept of the project that you're building out before we celebrate some wins?
Yeah, ideally, I'd like to kind of make my own. As a kid, I'd kind of imagine creating my own league of teams, and I'd create little logos for all these teams and stuff. And so this mini series is really kind of working back towards that of creating like a small league, if you will, of different team brands. And ideally, maybe using that as a project down the line. Way down the line once that's all finished up and polished. To present it to some sort of league, whether it's hockey, football, whatever, and see if I can redesign a league of logos or even start with one and move forward from there. So that's a goal way down the line, and I've got a lot of work to do to get there, but I'm excited just at the thought of it. So it's been cool.
Yeah. So cool to see you mesh like the secret sauce design with the illustration mixed with sports, with wellness, as well as being a dad and a family man. And there's other things I want to say, but I'll recap it at the end. Let's flex a little bit. We talked about the struggles. We talked about the seasons. Let's share a couple of these big W's along the way. What are some of the most biggest takeaways or transformation that you've seen during this program? And maybe some things that you need to share that past Marky Mark needed to hear.
For sure. I think, the marathon tied in really well with this program is that, creating task lists and really just, taking small baby steps go a long way. The task list has been huge. Creating a hit list for the next day every night gives me a roadmap forward. And they don't have to be big chunks or big tasks. They can be super, super small. That's been a huge help. Again, the second biggest thing is putting in the reps and showing up for myself. And a quick quote that I've really liked before this program, and I think really works well for this program too, said by Bill Toomey, a former Olympic champion. There is no one magic move or secret that creates victory, but lots of little items that, when added together, can make you victorious. Putting in the reps, I think, ties in nicely with that. And then lastly, all these lessons learned in this program, I think collectively, once you implement them and start practicing them, it starts really dissipating all the other struggles and really kind of hushing all the other fears that you have. It doesn't, still have them all and still working towards knocking all those off. But it's been a huge help in taking strides and leaps forward. So.
And one thing I really, really love about getting an opportunity to work with you is you're patient with it. You're hard on yourself. There's maybe 1 week that you gave yourself an A-. And to me, I'm like, okay, when I see a B+ from Mark, that's really an A-, because you're hard on yourself, which we all are. So is Mary, so is Joonie Kay. But each week also within your check-ins, it's like, man, these systems are really helping me out. It's benefiting you at the day job. One of the things I admired most, two things actually, within the first couple of weeks, we made action items about just getting back into the gym, because this creative game is it's only possible to really thrive with your creativity when you take care of yourself as well. So those action steps in the first couple of weeks were get back into the gym X amount of times per day. I'm like, okay, I can fuck with that. And then other things recently is, can I still put in the work? And is it okay to take weekends off? I'm like, absolutely. So not only that, you're a family man. You prioritize your family above all else. Why you're still throwing down on here, why you're still sticking to your schedule. Every week you're like, man, here's my hit list. Here's my hit list. This worked because of this. This was an off week, but I was able to adjust because I had a crazier thing pop up. because I had my list and my plan of attack. I'm like, you're mastering your systems, you're mastering your mind, you prioritize your wellness, you prioritize your family, and you're taking big leaps and betting big on yourself with your art. So you can complement your design business and then just really find yourself along the way in your craft. And Marc, what an absolute pleasure to get a chance to build with you here and see you each week. And I think the real Marc is taking off right now. Once you got the bigger things off your plate, you needed those early weeks to figure out how to handle the work that I've said yes to. These are my hell yeses. I committed to these. So these are my back burner things. And when these are off my plate, then I could insert these. And you built up these systems and these structures. So when these were off your plate, you knew what to work on. And your most recent check-ins, while most people this part of the program are stressing, like, this is more of a chill week because you prioritize what mattered most. So kudos to you. And what an absolute pleasure. And thanks for going first today and absolutely rocking it, man. We all appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Killed it. All right. We got the homegirl, Mary. I've been working with Mary longer than anyone. So what an opportunity to get Mary finally on this episode. Mary, the floor is yours. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hey, y'all. I'm Mary Moegenburg. I'm a bold mixed media artist, finding my creative voice through my superhero character, Stella. You know, to me, everything is a canvas as I focus on creating raw mixed media artwork with power mantras. You know, my work is for myself, but it's also for others, looking for an empowering push to tap into their potential. That way, others too can find their own superhero within. I also run my own design business. So
Mary's a grinder, and just like hear Mary just give that artist statement right there. Me and Mary go back, what, 2 years now at least? Early boot camp days. Mary was like nervous on the mic, very antsy at times, just trying to find her groove and find her people. Because all I'm learning about Mary, Mary's more of like a solo dolo kind of person. And now Mary in the boot camps and Mary here, I'm like, yo, Mary's a mini coach to me. I need more Marys in my corner. I'm like, damn, it's so cool to see the slow and steady progress and then get a chance to work with you in this. It's like, damn, look at Mary go right now. So let's dive in a little bit more. I'm going to pivot to you as well. You talked about Stella. Let's break down what Stella is, who Stella is, and who you're becoming through this person.
Stella's my superhero. She thinks outside of the box. She rescues animals. She says the right things at the right time. Stella is powerful. She lifts people. She lights up a room. Stella is what I will become. Stella for me is my potential manifested.
I love that. If we're going back a couple boot camps, I remember you coming up with this concept of Stella. And what was that original concept, and like, why is it now really sticking? What was Stella, the early original stages, and where is Stella grown today?
Stella was almost like graffiti art, something that you could write in chalk or spray on a wall. And it was something that kind of followed me mentally, where it was just kind of like someone in my corner, something an icon that I could draw on, like a rabbit's foot or something that made me feel like I could go deeper.
And I feel like Stella today has really, really, really evolved within this program. And I think the key of Stella evolving is because of these projects you've been working on. The season of Stella, there's also the season of Mary being this designer, but also like there's another version of Mary out there who wants to be the true art brand, the artist that you've always been, especially reading your own story and your secret sauce. I'm like, damn, Mary is a boss. And I know Mary runs her own business. Like, where's this next level of Mary? So can we speak about these projects you've been working on? Because one was more of like a warm up to set you up for the main one. So talk a little bit more about the projects that are allowing Stella to actually manifest that potential.
Okay, so going back to Stella originally, I would just, Stella was a little doodle, a little icon. Sometimes you could spray her on a wall or um, on, chalk on the ground and stuff like that. But as I started doing more and more artwork, Stella would show up in my sketchbooks, in my daily schedules, and tasks that needed to be done. And then I started doing artwork around Stella. When economic times hit hard, I did a huge Stella with, lyrics from songs in between, her hair and her lips, for example. And then now I've decided to take Stella into more of a mindset game, because for me, my whole art game is really about mindset, getting out of my way. So I started this first series. It was called Reach for the Sky Within. It's kind of like the beginning of the mindset journey. And Reach for the Sky Within is all about reaching within, grabbing one's own potential, which is really the power of the mind, and that worked. But I also found that it was just a straight iconic Stella, and there was nothing really swimming around that. There was no power, there was no light, there was no force of energy. So from that, I decided to dive a little bit deeper and launch a manifestation series. Now, this manifestation series I've been thinking about in other boot camps as well, but I made a disconnect. What is manifestation? What does it mean? How can I kind of go beyond all of that? So for me, manifestation is making things happen, create it. Manifestation is mindset. It's powerful affirmations, visualizations. It's almost like in sports where you see yourself, before the race starts, finishing the line first. It's your personal best. So for me, learning how to manifestation for me is abundance. But for me, manifestation's key point is the creative flow. How can I tap into that creative flow no matter what I'm doing? So for me, I'm kind of realized in order to begin to manifest, to tap into that creative flow, I needed to slow down. I needed to breathe. I needed to ground myself, center, also start prioritizing my art, and then making it happen, doing the thing. Because for me, it's really easy to kind of like flutter around like glitter around and around in a theme instead of just sitting, tapping in and going deeper. So for me, manifestation really is seeing it. You see something, but you speak it. You speak what you want into reality, and you follow up with the systems, habits, and routines to make that happen.
I love it. And you and I have a lot of conversations on the side, and I'm like, woo is what saved me. Woo is what exploded my creativity and my business. I think a lot of people knock something like manifestation. Oh, that's just like something, all these crazy people talk about it. I'm like, okay, law of attraction. If I want it, it'll come to me. But no, what I hear you saying is manifestation is making it happen, thinking, speaking, but more importantly, acting. And there's been seasons and periods after boot camps and stuff, Mary kind of like stops making it happen a little bit, you know? But then Mary in this program, there's been a couple hacks that you've been doing. How has Mary showed up to make things happen outside of just normal art? Like I know with your sketching and your daily notes and everything else, like what are some ways that you hack yourself into creating consistently when creating was kind of on the back burner because you're in the design business and everything, and business is crazy. You have a bunch of animals and stuff too. Like you have a crazy or hectic life. How do you hack your way into creating often, if not daily?
Yeah, that's a really great point, because I want to step back for a second, Scotty. When I started the program, for the 12-week program, for me, um, what had brought me to the program was I was still not prioritizing my work. I was not utilizing the tools from the boot camp and running with those incredible tools. I was letting, as you said, my day job, my design business, eat all my creative time. And I was still doubting my abilities and embracing limiting self-beliefs. I mean, so that's kind of how I came into this 12-week program. But if I go a little bit deeper on that, and sorry, I'm segueing a little bit off your original question. Well, actually, I'm going to pause right there and just go back. I'm going to circle back to your question.
Yeah.
Action creates the energy, that kind of flow, that kind of rhythm. That's kind of like the soundtrack to our daily life. And for me, what's helped me just kind of keep that energy, that pulse going is just creative 10, creative play every day, 10 minutes. I've got a book where it's a schedule book where I'm sometimes there's hand lettering, sometimes there's concepts, sometimes there's a lyric, sometimes there's a recipe, sometimes it's just a phone number, sometimes it's something random. But going back to this daily book, all the time is something that just has kind of been my anchor. Really, really helps. The other thing that's really helped me is to kind of look at the day, or actually step back and look at the week. Like, one thing that we learned to really utilize in the coaching program is the 3 buckets. You've got your life bucket, you've got your dream bucket, and you've got your day job bucket. And then, you highlight your A1 tasks, your A1, 2, 3, and your B tasks. But the beauty of all of that is seeing the relationship between those buckets and seeing how in some parts of the week, like Mondays, my day job bucket is so fiery. That's the bucket that I need to fill. Whereas if I go towards the weekend, my dream bucket, my art bucket is the bucket that's in bloom, and that's the one that takes all the focus. So if I kind of realize that the whole ebb and flow of the week, it happens naturally in life, and to go with that flow instead of trying to force myself to do something that isn't working, that really helps. And also I tend, because I own my own business, I front load the day job on the top of the week. That really helps.
Man, there was so much gold in there. Like, I hope someone's like listening, taking notes. So much gold. And you're right. It's not about like, there's no such thing as perfect work-life balance. It's counterbalancing. And let's talk a little bit about those big takeaways that you've learned. You've kind of already alluded to one, but like, you've become really good at prioritizing your time and being objective with your time of what's possible. Can you talk a little bit about all those wins, specifically leading off with like micro seasons that you've talked about? And let's fly through some of these wins here.
In terms of some of the wins from this season, I highlighted micro seasons and they need to counterbalance. The other thing, which has really hit hard, was lead with the dream. Because I was starting to say that, there were symptoms, why I signed up for the 12-week program. But the real core of why I signed up was because I wasn't able to dream. I wasn't able to have a dream. I wasn't able to see the dream, and I didn't have the tools to be able to get there. So now through this program, I've realized the importance of leading with the dream, and that through having the dream, I can get there. The other goal that's really helped me is the power of leaning into uncertainty. Because something that I experienced a lot between boot camps was hesitancy and paralysis. And hesitancy and paralysis tend to come up when the path is uncertain. So now I'm learning just to honor myself, respect the process, open up, and realize that being vulnerable and uncomfortable is the way that I open my heart, my life, and my work to the creative flow. So that's really helped as well.
Powerful stuff, Mary. And because I've had a chance to work with you the longest, I'm like, damn, I've get to see the biggest transformation. I've seen uncertain Mary, and then I've seen fiery Mary. I've read your backstory, and I'm blown away just by like, damn, Mary's a hustler. Mary is an absolute hustler. So when I like got to know you, I'm like, damn, okay, I just saw timid Mary, and now I see fiery Mary again. Mary who's able to manifest, Mary who I'm like comfortable with, like after post program. You said it even perfectly yourself in the most recent check-in. It's like, I'm not, even if I had like an off week or if I fall off, I've never truly fallen off the saddle. I've been in the saddle the whole time, and I've been equipped with the habit, the resources, the discipline, the structures, the systems, the mindset that I can just turn it back on again. And hearing how like this has been a crazier week, I'm finding what works for me. I'm front loading my weeks so I can make time for my art. I'm carving out time each day to make time for my art. What made me really uncomfortable and being vulnerable is sharing my art with the world, whether it's fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of someone not liking what you do, to now it's Mary's posting 3 to 5 times a week via her stories and her profile. And it doesn't even phase her anymore. Like she's already faced and slayed that dragon, and she's on to the next thing, because we chase what's exciting, but we chase what's scary. And at the end of the day, there's Mary who's over here just crushing it and living through this vessel of her art, and then also living the dream of being a business owner. And one day I'd like to see those worlds merge. And so, Mary, I want to just say thank you so much for being the cheerleader and the mini coach we all need in our corner. If you could just like give me a squad of Marys to go to battle with, how could I ever lose? So we love you, Mary. Thank you so much for being that empowering cheerleader and like allowing us to be Stella as well along this ride. So we really, really appreciate you. All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And last but not least, we got Joonie Kay. June. The floor is yours, June. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Joonie, aka Sentient Shapes. I am your friendly neighborhood triangle. I'm a poet and a line work artist that consciously uses shapes to create spaces for your inner child to be free. I'm also the host of Poetry's Not Dead, a show about the living and breathing mechanism of poetry. My art is primarily physical, but also lives within the digital Web3 space of Solana. And my work speaks to those who want to break free from the rat race and those who want to do more and be more. The overall goal of Sentient Shapes is to provide perspective, spread joy, and to teach the meaningfulness of words.
Beautiful. I am a Solana native over here. So I think what's beautiful is like blending these worlds of Web 2 and Web 3. Most people probably listen, don't have a clue what we're talking about, but it's a nice little mix right now of like you, me, and Web 3, but also we exist with physical art and whatever we're doing in Web 2. And then we're going to bring Mark and Mary along for the ride. So we've all got to like grow together and learn about each other's world, which I think is just so incredible. And for you, I think it's important to talk about your work first. We'll talk about the projects that you're working on, the season that you're in, because people probably think like, oh, Web3 or NFTs, it's just all digital. It's all digital, and then you're on the blockchain, you're killing the planet. I'm like, no, boo-boo, we're on Solana. It's a carbon neutral blockchain that uses less energy than 2 Google searches when we post our art online. Like, no, we're not killing the planet. We're making the world a better place here. So if you could tell us a little bit more about what is your work like and what's the project that you're working on right now?
Yeah, of course. I think my what my work is like is the easier question to answer. It's very fun and fancy free. I really try to have fun with it, and I use specifically circles, squares, and triangles to get deep, meaningful points across, but try to make those words very simple for people to understand. This season, I'm working on a 7-piece series. It's called Circles. Actually, all of my art is physically made before anything else ever happens. And of course, there's a poem that goes specifically with every piece. So circles is no different. Sometimes the poems are written before and sometimes they're written after, but there's always a poem with every piece. Circles specifically for these pieces, they're all 9x12 canvas boards. I spray painted them and then I layered them with acrylic paint and gouache paint. It was the first time I actually used gouache, and it's an interesting style of paint. I will say that. I will probably use it again, but it was very difficult. But each piece in this new series reflects a little bit about the shape circle and what that means to me and the meaning of the consciousness of the circle. And what I mean by that is like the circle of life, the eternal circle, and the cyclical nature of being a human. Some of the themes that these 7 pieces touch on is the power of saying no, the issue of humans trying to work against that cyclical nature of life that I just touched on, and the problem with perfectionism, and a Stoic principle called memento mori.
So not only are you coming to this program and you're launching a new series, but that's too easy. That's too easy. You've done this a million times. So why not just say no to everything else you're doing with everyone else, say yes to yourself, and then start a new show all on your own, a Twitter space, a Twitter X show that also sets you up to talk about your work and teach poetry and drop these little nuggety McValue nuggets of golden wisdom. So not only are you building this series, talk a little bit more about Poetry's Not Dead and where the concept came from and what were you doing before that?
Sure. Poetry is not dead. Let's talk about where I was before. I started a show. It was called the Solana Lyric Lounge, and I've been doing the show for over a year every week and giving poetry lessons that coordinated with an article that I wrote for this magazine called Chillzine. And when we started the program, you had asked me to kind of revamp the show in a way that it was 100% on the Sentient Shapes brand rather than being under the umbrella of anything else. And yeah, it was really nerve-wracking. But so far, how Poetry's Not Dead has been going for the past, this will be 5 weeks, I guess. It's been really fun. It's been a challenge for me to present the poetry lessons in a different way from the format that I was doing before. So it's been really interesting to kind of like break down my own poems and give the reader like an inside view, not only to the art that goes with the poems, but the way that someone who studied poetry would look at these poems. So it's been really interesting.
And it's not easy. It's not easy. And it got to the point where I'm like, honestly, Coach Scotty.D.Russell, bro, you're probably pushing this a little too hard right now. And so we've gotten to a point where we scaled it back. So like Jew can still have a life in between it. Cause girl, you've been pushing it and crushing it, but also it's a long-term game, and doing something weekly on that level with art mixed with show and show notes. And it's kind of like you're doing it for the first time, but also like you've done it before, but now it's like all on you. Everything's on you, and it's on you for your brand. You know, it's a powerful thing of what you're doing. It's a long-term play, and it's one of those suck and figure it out early on so you can be the shit later on and just blow people's minds with it. So I kind of tiptoed around some struggles, but you know, let's talk about June. I started working with June just about a year ago. You were in Q4 boot camp, I believe, right? In 2022. Was that the first time we officially started working together?
It was Q3 was my
Q3.
first one.
Okay, Q3 then. So definitely we are officially over a year. But before that, though, you were always jumping on my Twitter spaces. They'd be quiet. Not many people would show up. But there's June, Sentient Shapes. And then she'd come up and like be the only person to request to talk. And I'm like, thank you for not making me feel like a worthless piece of shit and making me feel seen today.
Yeah, that actually, you give like a lot of free value in those classes. And that's really why I used to show up like religiously, because at that time, which is not like this now, but at that time I was like, it felt unreachable to be able to be coached by you. So I just
You're-
showed up because
you're
what
hilarious.
you were giving me the tips on were working for me, because I was working what you were saying in the background when no one was watching.
Ooh, there's the biggest growth too. There's a fucking nugget, a shapeful conscious nugget right there. The real growth happens on your own when no one's paying attention. That unsexy under the hood work, so others can see the sexy external results. But let's hit some more struggles right now. Like coming in the 12-week program, where were you? What were some of the biggest hurdles that you've navigated or been navigating still?
I think one of like the biggest struggles that I was having, especially during the first, like when we first started this program, was just like having like confidence behind like my voice. I come from the theater, so it's really easy to act like you have confidence. You just act like you do, and then no one knows you don't. But to actually like have the reps to back up that confidence, kind of like what Mark was saying earlier about just like having those reps either for fitness, for racing, it makes you more confident on race day. And so that was really one of my biggest struggles when I came in. I would probably say that was the top struggle. And secondly, kind of goes with that one as well, but just putting myself out there in a way that genuinely connects with people, because I never want people to be like, oh, she just wants to off these shapes on us and she doesn't care about this art. She just does it for money. And that
She's
would be
just a
like,
shape shiller.
yeah, that would devastate me, because I put so much heart into my art that really a little piece of my soul's in every piece that I make. So I'm always worried about like, oh my gosh, if I am trying to market my work, then people are going to think that I'm grimy. And that was probably my second biggest struggle. I think I still struggle with that a little bit, but we're going to just keep getting reps and we'll get there. Another thing that I really struggle with is like organization and systems for myself. I actually do organization for startup companies, which is really funny because to apply it to myself is actually quite difficult. So yeah, but the last thing, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but kind of like saying no to other people was really difficult for me. I would say it's a lot easier now, even though it still feels the same. It's easier, but you still feel kind of bad when you have to say no to people, but it feels better knowing that you're not just saying no to be a jerk. You're saying no because you have this plan of action that just doesn't fit into at the moment.
Right. And I feel like the biggest weapon you can leverage in order to inch closer to that dream off lurking in the horizon is the ability to say no. And saying no doesn't make you an asshole. And I feel like the hardest game, especially I'm a recovering people pleaser, saying no is hard. So I know what I was putting you through when I was nudging and pushing you in that direction is it's easy to disappoint ourselves, but it's hard to disappoint people, like other people, whether we care about them or not. And so I feel like the true game, if you really want to grow your creative brand and your business in a lane that's true to yourself, authentic, something you're excited about, and also scary, is who are the right people to disappoint? Because every time we say yes to someone else and not ourselves, we're disappointing someone. And so I'm going through a similar season to that as well, of getting back to the art, just like Mary, just like Mark. In order to make my art a priority, there's got to be people I say no to. And it's hard. And like, it's just been really cool to see that progression of you. And it's just a rep. It's just a game that you got to get good at. And I feel like you're getting really good at it right now. Um, you're becoming a pro at prioritizing the dream with your art and your poetry. And like, it's just really cool to see your brand foundation really start turning into a launch pad. Well, let's flex on them a little bit, Joonie Kay. So let's start highlighting. Give me like 1, 3-ish, whatever. Let me get some big wins from you, some takeaways, some mindset shifts, or just something that past Joonie Kay needed to hear in our time together.
I think my first takeaway that specifically that my past self needed to hear was that this is the right place for me to be. Being a poet, I think, especially, and an illustrator of those shapely people characters, it has its days of like melancholic sadness and like me questioning, like, is me drawing these stick figures with no arms applicable to anything. But I've learned that saying no allowed me to see that it was like the right place for me to be. And I don't really know how I can explain that anymore, but that was a huge win for me. Just knowing that the path I'm on is, I deserve to be on that path. I've worked really hard to get here. And instead of crucifying myself that I am here, I can just know that I'm supposed to be and keep it moving. So yeah. I think another one is that this kind of piggybacks off the first one, but just like the whole confidence thing for me, I just never had confidence like in my work, in my artwork, even though I think I feel most confident in the poetry because it's something I've practiced since I was a small child. But I've always allowed like work for other people. Or like other forms of art. Like I used to be a model. I used to do Comic-Cons. I used to be managers for bands. And it was always in an art field, but it was never for me. So I never was allowed to like truly let my artistic integrity shine because I was backing up someone else's artistic integrity rather than my own, because that was my job to do that. And I thought that that would be fulfilling because it was quote unquote artistic for me to be managing bands or to be modeling or, whatever it was, but it was never for myself. So now I don't really have that like fake confidence that I used to really need when I would put my actual self out there. I have a real confidence because, like Mark and Mary said, I'm telling y'all, those priority lists are the best thing in the world. Okay. Just get you some ABC priorities and keep it moving. But yeah, I'm just trying my best over here, saying no to the people that it's okay to disappoint and making sure that that memento mori, that when I do die, that I'm not looking back like, man, I wish I would have. I just want to know that I did and it's done. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I love it. And getting the opportunity to like work with you over this year and see your growth, to me, out of all of y'all, you two especially, like every one of you, you are the value. And I think you're really starting to see it. It's not just the art, it's not just the poetry, it's the human, the story behind it, the experiences you bring to the table, the energy, the empowering, the love, the spirit, the muse, everything you pour into it. I'm like, you're more than your work. You're fucking June. You are the value. And just seeing you kind of like step into that creative genius right now and let go of, I'm using my art to build other people's platforms and dreams. Yes, it's good for me and gets my eyes out there, but now it's like, it's time for June to build her own bonfire versus helping aid the fuel for someone else's. And seeing June really just step into that role right now of, fuck it, I'm going to figure it out. I got stressful things in life going on, but I'm going to figure it out. Even if I'm running behind on my task, even if I need an extra extension for an assignment, whatever, I'm going to figure it out. And it trickles down to the shit that you've been through, you know, June, all those years and getting to read your story, and June, the mom, June, the partner, June, the spouse, June, the hustler who's selling shit on eBay as well outside of the day job. Like, you are a hustler and you are the value. And I feel like everybody's favorite shape should be a sentient shape. And what a fucking honor it is to have you along for the ride. It's just a privilege, June. So thank you for growing with us. It's just an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. I'll be here next week.
Y'all, that's a wrap, y'all. So I hope you listening right now, I hope you enjoyed this fall 2023 Student Spotlight episode. And please just do me a favor. Don't forget to show them some love, Mark, Mary, June, and connect with them, because these three have busted their asses just focusing, again, like I mentioned, that unsexy, under the hood internal work that nobody sees, so they can soak up the sexy external results the world will eventually notice, because the world's a mirror. What you think, speak about yourself, you become. So we're just waiting and building and playing the game patiently until we get that W lurking on the horizon. And I'm insanely proud to be their coach. And their week to week transformation is just hella inspiring. If you got to read these check-ins, you'd be like, holy shit, And then the times that they give themselves poor grades, I'm like, did you just read what you wrote here? Like, give yourself some credit. They're so hard on themselves, which I am too. And this is why we have coaches. This is why we have people in our corner. So I'm proud of y'all. Let's finish the program off strong. And you listening right now, lastly, I'd love to be your coach. I would love that privilege. I would love that opportunity. So if you feel like this program is the spark you're looking for and you want to be on a future student spotlight special as well, please join the waitlist for an upcoming spring and fall program at sidehustlerscoaching.com. Link is in the show notes. All right, everyone. Thank you for your time today. Y'all crushed it. Peace. Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.